Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is such a fantastic movie that it's definitely worth diving into the story of the main character, Flint Lockwood. He's an eccentric genius whose journey is packed with inspiration, humor, and quite a few explosions along the way. Flint grew up in a tiny, often overlooked place called Shallow Falls, a small island where the entire economy revolved around sardines. Unfortunately, as the world began to realize that sardines aren't exactly the most appealing food choice, the economy took a nosedive. The town got stuck in a rut, both technologically and culturally, and life became pretty stagnant. It was so bad that no one in Shallow Falls dared to dream about a future beyond their island shores, except for Flint. From a young age, he was fascinated by scientists, inventors, and explorers. They inspired him to think big and dream about changing the world, starting with his own town. He wanted to make life better for everyone around him. His very first invention was something he called spray-on shoes, which he thought would solve the problem of untied shoelaces once and for all. It sounded like a great idea in theory, but it quickly turned into a disaster. Instead of being the next big thing, Flint found himself in a middle school nightmare when the shoes got stuck and wouldn't come off. He was completely humiliated in front of all his classmates, but instead of giving up, this setback only fueled his determination to keep inventing and trying to make a difference. His mom is really the only person who truly believes in him. She always reminded him that the inventors he looked up to probably seemed like weirdos to everyone else too. Her support was unwavering. She even made him a homemade lab coat, which filled him with a vision of himself as the greatest inventor ever. That simple, thoughtful gesture sparked a lifelong journey for Flint, motivating him to make a difference in the world. Although he continued to come up with new inventions, the truth is, he didn't have much luck with them. For example, he created a remote control for the TV that stubbornly ignored all commands, which was more frustrating than helpful. He also invented a flying car that, as you might guess, didn't actually fly. While his ideas were ambitious and imaginative, they often turned into chaotic situations that caused more headaches than solutions. This made the people in his town pretty unhappy, and Flint began to feel even more isolated because of it. Sadly, his life took a turn for the worse when his mom passed away when he was just 13. After her death, he was raised by his dad, a simple man who loved fishing. While his dad cared for him, he really struggled to understand his son's wild and creative ideas. He often tried to connect with Flint using fishing metaphors, but those went right over Flint's head. This lack of understanding between them created a big gap in their relationship. Unlike the bond Flint had with his mom, he found it tough to share his dreams of becoming an inventor with his dad. He dreamed of joining his idol, Chester V, as a thinquanaut, just like the ones on his favorite science show, The Scientifically World of Science. Chester was everything Flint aspired to be: successful, respected, and capable of changing lives for the better. Flint's personality is a unique blend of optimism, naivety, and resilience. He genuinely wants to make a difference in the world, but sometimes his ambition gets ahead of his abilities. He comes up with inventions that look incredible in his mind, but they often don't work out in reality. While he thrives on forward-thinking ideas, his vision can be a little fuzzy when it comes to understanding the people around him. He tends to take things literally and often misses social cues, which doesn't help his already awkward social skills. Despite these challenges, Flint deeply values the few connections he has in his life. One of the most important relationships is with his best friend and assistant, Steve the monkey. Steve may not speak much, just a few simple phrases here and there, but in Flint's eyes, their companionship is everything. Having a friend like Steve means the world to Flint, and they share a bond that goes beyond words. Then there's Sam Sparks, his love interest, who shares the same quirky passions as he does. When Sam expressed her love for Jell-O castles, Flint took it to heart and actually created one for her. This act perfectly illustrates his attentiveness and loyalty, showing that he really cares about what matters to the people he loves. His most significant invention was a machine that could turn water into food. He believed this invention was the key to transforming Shallow Falls forever, and at first, it seemed like it was going to be a huge success. Everyone in town was excited about the idea of having an endless supply of food, and for a while, everything was going great. However, things took a turn when the machine started to malfunction, causing it to rain giant food all over the town. Instead of the tasty treats everyone had hoped for, Flint's invention created chaos and confusion as townspeople struggled to deal with the unexpected deluge of enormous food falling from the sky. Despite the mess, Flint stepped up and took responsibility for his actions. He confronted the consequences of his blind optimism and realized that he needed to face the situation head-on. This experience ended up bringing him and his father closer together, as they had to work as a team to save Shallow Falls from the food disaster. Through this process, Flint learned a lot about himself and emerged with newfound confidence and determination. For the first time, he felt he had earned his father's respect, something he had craved his whole life. But there was another lesson waiting for Flint. Remember Chester V, the idol he had always looked up to? Well, it turned out that Chester wasn't the guy Flint thought he was. Chester took advantage of Flint's desire for approval and manipulated him, even when Flint's friends and father expressed their concerns about his intentions. He was so blinded by his admiration for Chester that he refused to listen to the warnings from the people who truly cared about him.
But you were my idol. My whole life I looked up to you. I wanted to be you.
Oh, Lockwood, I was just using you to get your invention.
This stubbornness led to a powerful realization. Sometimes, the people closest to you can see the truth when you're too caught up in your own feelings to recognize it. Flint may not have been the most capable scientist in the traditional sense, but what he lacked in technical skills, he made up for with determination and creativity. He was a brilliant misfit who turned his wild ideas into a legacy, even if it meant facing failure along the way. Each disastrous invention taught him valuable lessons and brought him closer to understanding himself and the people around him.